Welcome to She Power, a show about the woman, for the woman, and by the woman. My name is Wavinya Wanyasa. Let's take a glimpse at what it is that we'll be talking about today. So, that is just a figure of some of the startling statistics that we have in Kenya of gender-based violence and in particular rape. There's quite a concern being raised by a lot of NGOs, and today we want to look into that and what it is that is being provided in terms of a platform to help young people fight rape and be loud and out about it. And that's why I have a guest that I celebrate simply because she's strong and she's out with a voice that will give hope to very many people. Faith Wafula. Welcome, my dear.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for making time.
Thank you for having me.
Great. Where do we start? The startling statistics. Crazy figures going round. What is not going on or what is going on?
Well, it's crazy, to be honest. Gender-based violence is so much of a reality. It's just that it's not been spoken about enough, especially when it comes to the youth. I'll give you some statistics, just out of the top of my head. So 1 in 4 girls between the ages of 15 and 19 lose their virginity by force. Yes. And 1 in 4 girls between the ages of 15 and 19 lose their virginity by force. Yes. And 2 out of 3 of those girls who lose their virginity by force, so 2 out of 3 women who are raped by someone that they know. So someone who is familiar to them, not a stranger. And it's very much close to us. It's close to our homes. It's in our homes, it's in our buildings, it's in our schools, but we don't address it. We do not talk about it. And that's the big problem.
Yeah, and so many news items touch on, as you've said, very close people to the culprits, or rather culprits close to those who were affected. There was a case scenario where we had a 4-year-old raped by her father. And the mother kept quiet because this was something that was going on over and over. But she kept quiet. The community came and realized and now pushed the story on front. And that's how we were able to find out. So what can be done about it?
Well, I think the best thing to do, one of the strongest things or approaches to take is by speaking out. Anytime we keep quiet, the perpetrator wins. Yeah. So we need to realize that we need to speak about it. It is not a taboo topic. A lot of times society tries to shun the topic by blaming victims and not looking at the issue for what it is, and by covering it up or sweeping it under the rug, making sure that no one talks about it. But the reality is, if we don't call rape, if we don't call gender-based violence out for what it is, it will keep on going on. Yeah, because then we are tolerating it. We are creating a rape culture, a country that is based on a rape culture or a gender-based violence culture. Yes.
And it's been swept under the carpet for way too long, with a lot of fingers pointing on the victims. I don't know whether it's just me, but statements like, how were you dressed when that happened? Those are the kind of, those are some of the statements that come out after a rape ordeal. The question that is asked to the lady is, what were you wearing, or what were you doing in the company of men at that time? So what would you say about that?
Yeah, the thing is, by looking for a person to blame, society shifts the blame from itself. We shift the blame from ourselves. So if a girl is raped at night, for example, walking in a street, the first thing you'll ask is, what were you doing walking outside at night? We're not wondering what the perpetrators are doing, why they are raping. Yeah. So we ask our daughters, what were you doing dressing like that? What were you doing in the company of that boy? But we don't bother to ask our sons, why did you do that? Yeah, why is this happening? So by shifting the blame from ourselves, we make ourselves look clean, we make ourselves look good as a society, because we're putting the blame on someone else. But we're destroying the victims' lives by doing that, and we're not addressing the problem. We really are not. And we have a very heavy victim blaming culture. During that time when there was a case about the MP and the lady who was raped, that was the craze. It was all over social media. Everyone asking, what was she doing? What is a married woman doing in someone's office? But that does not solve the issue. We need to remember that rape is about the perpetrator. It's not about the victim.
It's not about the victim.
Yes.
Wow.
And you're very passionate about this, and something has been birthed out of your passion. We'll be getting into that other, the details, what it is that led you to this. But tell us a bit about your contribution to the movement against rape and gender-based violence.
Well, I work for an organization called Strategic Applications International, and we run a program called SEMA. So SEMA is a youth-targeted gender-based violence initiative. And what we seek to do is to create mentality, behavioral, policy and structural changes with regard to gender-based violence and to create gender equality. So we target youth from high school level, from community level, and from university level, and we capacity build them, and we get them to break the silence through arts, through policy creation, and so that they can go out and break the silence and make noise about it and let people know that it's not okay. So one of the major things that we do is, of course, work with universities, because that is one of the most understudied and most unfocused on population, university students. And the shocking fact is that a lot of rape happens in campuses, a lot of gender-based violence, intimate partner violence because students are cohabiting. We have assaults because, students are going out for rave, coming back, they're getting assaulted, but they don't know who to speak to. So if you speak to, for example, the clubs in universities that deal with gender-based, deal with women's and girls' issues like WASWA, then you get to learn a lot. There was that case on the media where the female student leaders had gone to a police station to report, and they were complaining that their male counterparts never joined them when it comes to gender-based violence cases, and making noise about it because a female student had been raped. There was a student from Moi University who got raped and killed. There was a case that I heard of, a different one where a female student was, a male student poured acid on a female student. And so these cases happen. But the thing is, these people don't know about it because, like I said, it's better to keep them hush-hush, go to a police station and not deal with it from an administrative point of view, from the campus. What are the universities doing about it? What is the administration doing about it? Do they have policies against it? Do they have laws against it? Are they implemented? So it's just about dealing with gender-based violence with a focus on young people, because these are the people that are going to be husbands and wives in the near future. And we don't want it to, we want to curtail, we want to break the cycle of gender-based violence. So changing those mentalities and those perspectives while young people are still young.
I don't know, a parent watching and getting this for the first time, that there's a lot of gender-based violence, rape going on in universities, and it's hardly something they perhaps ever fathomed or even thought about, and now finding out that this is what happens. What do you think parents can do as well, aside from, the students, now that it's been highlighted that this is happening? I didn't know that it happens in universities. I thought it was 1-2 cases, which is too much, actually. But parents who take their students there, do they ever take time to find out what policies are there to protect their children, or do they talk to their children so that their children can, can let them know when there's trouble? What can parents do in a nutshell?
I think first of all, it's important to speak to our children. It's important for a parent to speak to their daughters or their sons. They come back for long holidays, 4 months, 6 months. Do you know what has been happening in their lives? Do you have any idea? We take our students as first years for orientation. Yes. And first years are told a lot of things, but are they told the reality on the ground? That when you go to a freshers' bash, this is what is going to happen. Do parents know that this is what happens in the campuses? So just having that communication with their students, and for parents and the public and the students to stand up and basically try and compel the universities to have gender policies, to have gender and sexual harassment policies, and to implement them. Because if the voice is loud enough from the parents of these students, from the students themselves, then the institutions will feel compelled to implement. So speaking to our children is important, or speaking to the students, speaking to the children is important, but playing our part in making sure that that we make enough noise, we speak out enough so that something is done about it.
Yes. Also, parents, there you go. It's not just about paying your school fees and, you know, washing your hands and saying, I've done my part. There's so much more that you need to do aside from just taking your children to school. We'll be back with Faith Wafula, still on that, getting to understand the SEMA project and what it's all about. We'll be back. Great. If you're just joining us, we are talking to Faith Wafula. She was just telling us a bit about her SEMA project. It's all about fighting rape and gender-based violence. So we had just talked about the importance of having policies set up also in universities and the involvement of parents in ensuring that those policies are enforced so that our girl children or girl child and also the male counterparts are taken care of. And Faith, tell us more about SEMA.
So far, what we have done with SEMA is we have communication outreaches in the universities. So we've done concerts, and these concerts are organized by the students themselves, or the students that we have trained. We have concerts, we have flash mobs, we have different communication avenues, trainings that they organize, and the students that we've trained give messaging. So we go there on a capacity build as a capacity building effort, and we basically just pillow their efforts. But they do a lot of awareness raising within the universities. Also, we work with clubs and student leaders, specifically gender secretaries in the universities. And we go and we have training sessions with them. And after that, we sit down and we ask them, so look at your individual university. What sort of gaps can you see, you know, that can tolerate or promote gender-based violence in your campus? And they come up with different things. Like one campus said that they have shower curtains instead of shower doors, and that a couple of students, you know, have been put in some sort of danger because of that. Basically, some of them, maybe the campuses are not well lit. They don't know where to report when there's any sort of abuse within the campus. If you're raped in campus, they don't know where they should report. So different issues come up. And after that, we tell them, fine, then come up with solutions. And how do we help you implement these solutions? Working as student leaders and clubs. So is it through activism? Is it through advocacy? How do they do it? How do they reach the administration? So that's what we do with universities. But we do the same at community level as well with community youth through Madara Youth Sports Association and other youth groups. And we also do the same with high school students through Kenya Scouts Association. Yes, so far we have reached over 5,000 students, and the number keeps growing. Yes.
Aside from, you know, just seeing it grow and blossoming, have you seen a difference in terms of behavior, behavior change, and what have you?
I think behavior change is very difficult to achieve and very difficult to monitor. So we are continually doing that. But there definitely has been a change in terms of the students that we have trained go out. We don't even look for them. We don't ask them to organize the events, the awareness raising efforts. They organize it themselves within their campus because they after going through the trainings, they see the need. They recognize that, hey, this is wrong. So they go out and they organize the trainings themselves. They write blogs for our website and for social media. They do a lot of awareness creation and awareness raising themselves. And also in terms of policy creation, we've seen that a lot of campus-based clubs are seeking us out so that we can work with them to change policies within their individual levels. Yes. So it's been really nice to see them take the initiative and recognize that, hey, this is wrong. We shouldn't be taking this, and we should speak out more about this, you know. And a lot of people not being afraid to come out and tell their stories as well. So that has been positive.
Fantastic, fantastic. And this is so passionate. I mean, I can tell that it's so much in you. And having birthed it yourself, because this is something that perhaps you, I don't know, is there a story to this?
Yeah, there is a story. Basically, I went to an ordinary primary school, you know, here in Nairobi, and then I went to high school. And at some point, I ended up going to a high school smack in the middle of Maasai land in Loitoktok. Wow. Yes. Exactly. So it was, first of all, it was just a complete culture shock, you know, and it was really hard. I was in my final year of high school. But as I got used to it more, I made friends, and I I got to love the people that I met there. And as we all know, that is an area that has a lot of FGM, yes. And I remember speaking to the girls in my class one time, and a couple of them, actually I remember sharing a story with one, and she was telling me her story and, you know, how painful it was and what. But then after a while, we were having a conversation with the rest of the girls, and it was shocking for me because there were some who were adamant saying, yes, I went through this, but I will totally do it to my daughter as well.
What?
Yes, and it was really shocking for me. I mean, I couldn't quite understand it myself. And I was like, why? You know, what would make someone, you know, think that? And I was at that point, I was a teenager, so a lot of ideologies were forming in my mind. And I think that's where my women's rights and feminist ideologies started forming. And then I went to campus, and so I decided I was going to study law. And of course, my favorite units were gender and the law and all things gender related. Yes, and but then at some point in campus, I ended up going through a personal experience, and it was really tough for me. And I looked at the situation, and I had no one to speak to. I couldn't, you know, I didn't know how exactly to handle it. I had friends, you know, in school that I was like, I didn't know how it would be taken. And so I basically, I built a wall, you know, and I didn't handle it. I didn't go forward with it. And after that, I remember dealing with the whole process. Dealing with the whole process after that was really, really tough for me. But after that, that's when I knew for a fact, you know, that what I wanted to work on, you know, that I wanted to help other women and girls out there. And so instead of going to Kenya School of Law, I went to an organization, and they had a campaign running. They were fundraising for a gender-based violence initiative in Turkana. And I told them, hey, I think there's a gap. And I think no one is really working with youth. And I think this is a big issue when it comes to youth. So why don't you give me a chance and let's see what we can do. And so that's how SEMA started. That's how it was birthed. And it's really just taken a life of its own since then.
Wow, fantastic. And you know, a lot of women go through a lot of stuff. It's especially abuse, you know, assault, rape, and what have you. But that avenue of just speaking out is never presented, or sometimes hushed down, because if a family member or family members realize or find out that you've gone through that, they'll try and sort it within themselves and then just hush you. And I know that a lot of women who are going through that. I just want you to speak to someone right now before we check on the app, because there's a very important app. I want you to speak to a woman right now. It could be assault, it could be, name it, every kind of abuse. And she's feeling alone in a dark place where you were at and where so many women are at right now. I just want you to speak to that woman as Faith and just let her know that she can come out of it.
I think, first of all, it is important to remember that it is not your fault. It is never your fault. It is the perpetrator's fault. And no one should blame you as a woman for anything that happens to you. It is important to seek help. It is important to speak to someone. Because a lot of times, not speaking is the biggest mistake that we make, because then we give power to the perpetrator. So speak out, report, come out of it a strong person. It is not your fault.
And yes, and you can make it out of it. What happens when a girl is raped? What should she do as the first thing? Because you mentioned, I think you talked about rape kit or something, first aid, rape first aid kit or something. Just delve on that a little bit and let a girl know what should happen. Should such a thing happen? What should they do first?
I think the first thing that normally happens once a person has been raped or sexually assaulted is, because you feel so dirty and unclean, the first thought that comes to your mind is, let me take a shower, which is not what you should do. Yeah, definitely. Don't take a shower, because a lot of people do that and we end up losing what could have been evidence, in a case. And it's really hard to stay, an entire day perhaps with that whole feeling of, exactly, it's really tough. But I think the first thing we should do is, of course, call someone that you trust. call someone who can be there for you. Whether it's a family member, a friend, someone that you trust, and seek medical help. So if it's taking the garments that you had on and putting them, and definitely don't put them in a plastic bag, but taking the garments that you had on, put it in, say, a brown envelope, and go seek help. Go to a hospital. Go to Nairobi Women's Hospital. Go to Mbagathi. And after that, the process in itself is tough. And a lot of people don't recognize how tough the reporting process is, because you go there, once you enter, the waiting process before you see the doctor, and then the procedure that the doctor conducts on you with what I call the rape kits, how they collect evidence, it's really tough and it's long. And a lot of survivors, go to the hospital alone. And just sitting there all that time, going through that whole entire process is tough. So it's important to have people with them, have someone, have a friend, And after that, seeking counseling, following through with the counseling. It's important to speak to someone who understands. So following through with the counseling and reporting. Do not be afraid to report. So following through with the counseling, then making your report, I think that would be important.
All right. And there's a way that girls can actually protect themselves. You were talking about the SEMA app. Tell us a little bit more about that.
The SEMA app is actually a channel, a way to bring service providers closer to the people. And it's a GPS-coded mobile phone application. And basically what it does is it links you up to 3 priority contacts that you've saved on your phone. And all you have to do is press a widget on your phone and it sends them a message. And the message says, help, I'm in trouble, this is my location. And it gives them your location. And your GPS doesn't need to be on because it uses SMS triangulation. But other than that, it also links the user up to emergency service providers. For children, it will, or any person under the age of 18, it connects you to Childline. And for any person over the age of 18, it will eventually link you up to 1195, which is the gender-based violence hotline number. It also links you up to a counseling hotline number, a partner of ours. They run a number which is 1190. Okay. Yeah, and every week we send you tips on what to do to keep yourself safe, places to avoid through the app. So this is how the app looks like. It has an option of where you can add your panic contacts. These are the people that you would like to contact in case there's an emergency. And you can add 3 contacts. Then it gives you an option of reporting abuse. So the report abuse part is so that you can report abuse anonymously. And so there's a slot for physical, psychological, sexual, or other forms of abuse. And then you just type it in and you send it in and it comes to the database where the service providers will have access to it and will follow up. Then we have the weekly tips and updates where we send every week. We send a different tip or a different update on how to keep yourself safe as a woman. And then we have offload here. So basically, this links you up to 1190. 1190 is the counseling hotline number run by 121. And basically, we're looking at the gap because there's emotional gender-based violence as well. And you need to speak to someone. Yes. So that's where they come in. Then we have the resources. In these resources, we have the different websites that can help you in case you've been assaulted. Where do you go? So we have the gender-based violence service providers map, which is basically a map that has all the counseling areas, all the places you can get medical assistance and all that. And we have different resources right here. But basically, once you're in trouble, what you do is you go to your phone. Once you download the app, it comes with a widget. And you press the widget, and it sends out the message, the GPS message, to the numbers that you've saved on your phone. And so the message will come as a text to the numbers that you've saved. And the text basically says, help, I'm in trouble, and this is my location.
Fantastic. And I think it's one easy way to actually get yourself protected from perpetrators and what have you. I don't even know what to say. It's huge. It's wonderful that you're doing something toward it. And I do believe that as we go along with such, projects as yours and others coming in, and as you said, parents also need to join in. I think also men need to join in and help fight the whole rape ordeal, because that's your mother, that's your sister, that's your friend. So it's very important for all of us to rally in together and ensure that this thing has been hushed completely. I want to thank you so much for having me time to come through. Trust me, it's huge what you're doing, and I just want to encourage you to continue doing that. Thank you so much. And for you at home, ladies, girl, child, mothers, you're very important. And you deserve respect, you deserve love. Nobody at any one time should touch you for whatsoever reason. There are now avenues for you to report, so you shouldn't go through assault, even in the office, men touching you or what have you, or in a matatu. They need to know your presence. So you need to be tough on the ground, knowing your rights and ensuring that you are enforcing those rights by going to the right avenues, getting such apps and getting, having sister networks. I don't know, it's very important. Girl networks, mother networks, women networks in the neighborhood, such that you're loud. Because when you're loud, then the message goes through. Let's do this again next time. She Power it is. Thank you for having been with us.